the Gotcha Cast because Tecton was talking about taking some cream in his mouth or something like that. I don't know. You can, well, if you guys want to know the context of that, you guys can figure that out on your own. Anyways, what's going on, all my gamers, all my Gotcha Genshin gamers? So, I want to talk about Genshin Impact winning Mobile Game of the Year at Gamescom 2024 and whether I believe it did or did not deserve to win it. So the only other people that they were up against was themselves, but they weren't against Honkai Star Rail. They're actually only against Zenless Zone Zero. And I did want to talk about it because I know a lot of people aren't surprised by this. I don't know how everyone else feels about it, but I know that reading through this, because I'm on the r/gotcha gaming, I know I don't like being here, but I needed a background for this video, and Genshin Impact winning Mobile Game of the Year, it just seems like it fits. So it feels like people really aren't that surprised when it comes to Genshin Impact winning. And to be quite honest, I'm not that surprised either. I'm just surprised about the other games that weren't nominated, because I feel like Honkai Star Rail did have a really good year this year with Penacony. I think Penacony was probably peak Honkai Star Rail. And something like that, I really thought it would have been nominated, because I think Penacony was on par with Fontaine, especially because it had a lot more content than Fontaine and a lot more, a lot better. I'd say it had pretty good content, especially compared to where Fontaine just died off. It's like, okay, that's kind of weird. Why did you die off the third patch in? Now, Penacony wasn't as long. I think it only had 4 patches-ish. 4 to 5 patches ish of story before we went back to the Lofu. And I do think that those stories were really good, but there was a problem with me specifically with how Honkai Star Rail was, and that is how fucking absurdly long the Penacony stories were. I'm going to be completely honest, chat. I do think that there are a lot of characters that came out, and the one character that I was going to talk about is, I do think Aventurine is a really good unit. He's actually insanely busted, but I'm going to keep it I'm going to be a fucking 1,000 with you, chat. I do not want to have a 6-hour story about Aventurine. He is not that interesting. His ass is not that interesting. I would have liked a 6-hour story of Acheron, but that's just because I'm biased. My only problem with the Honkai Star Rail story, besides Aventurine story being way too goddamn long, is I feel like it just bounced around way too much and introducing like groups we had no idea about. It's like, Quest. I'm already on a Quest. Who the fuck are these people? That was like my biggest gripe when I was listening to the Honkai Star Rail story. It's just like, dude, they just keep talking about these different groups, and now we're watching Aventurine, and now we're watching Acheron. The story felt, I think it was only in 2.1 where it felt that way, where it just felt too all over the place. I think once we got to the end with Robin, I think it came together really, really well, and I really loved Sunday. But I'm just very surprised that Honkai Star Rail wasn't nominated for Game of the Year. Now, we have to talk about the elephant of the room, because another game was also not nominated, and that is Wuthering Waves. Now, I am a huge Wuthering Waves fan. I think Wuthering Waves is probably the best game to come out this year. I still think I would still put it against Zenless Zone Zero, but it's just the release of Wuthering Waves is just so fucking awful. Like, it has to be one of the most abysmal releases, but I think it really showed how much Kuro cared at the same time, because yeah, sure, they screwed it up, but like, they just brought it back so well, especially with the optimization issues. I think the optimization issues, I don't want to say that they're pretty much all fixed at this point, but I do think that a lot of it is fixed. The English voice acting definitely, it seems, in a better direction, especially with the main girls, Yang Yang and Chisha. I think a lot of that voice act, though I think the voice direction is definitely going in a better direction. I think that this game, in the long run, is going to show a lot of promise. It's showing a lot of promise now, to be completely honest. I love Jinshi's story, especially with Juye. I think that was a great story. Like, for me personally, and of course, chat. Chang Li. Chat room, hold me back. Her breasts are mine. Now, when we talk about Genshin Impact, I think even though it had such a dead period for like how long was it, chat? I think 6 patches. I think they only made it 3 patches of the Fontaine story. And it's just so awful when you have to play through it. Now, I know someone like Mr. Pokey who just started playing Genshin Impact recently doesn't have to go through that because he could just go through the whole story now that there's actual content. Piece of shit. But like, the rest of us having to live through it was kind of awful, man. I'm going to be completely honest. But when you stop thinking about how much content there wasn't and you focus on the content that there was, I honestly think that Fontaine has to be... God, I'm trying to think of another story this year that was probably better than Fontaine. And I'm going to be completely honest, I can't think of any. Fontaine was just peak. It was just such a good story, and Farina is probably my favorite character right now. Now, there are some other characters that I do like, and that's unfortunate because, they ain't give my girl much. They ain't give my wife a lot, but, she's working with what she's got. I'm sorry. I know we're talking about, like, how good these characters are and, like, their stories and how important that shit is, and I'm over here like, man, her tits could be fatter. No, Farina is an amazing character. Folklore was a great... The story with her in Folklore was amazing. I cried a lot. Chat. Hey, chat. I keep it real with you. You keep it real with me. That's the deal that we all worked out here. If you're gonna be real with me, I gotta be real with you. I absolutely cried a lot during the Fontaine story. But I cry a lot, chat. I'm not gonna lie. I cried in the Penacony story as well, especially when Robin came out at the end with the fight and all that. That was such an emotional part, especially the second time because I died the first time. But yeah, Genshin. And man, I gotta tell you, this cycle of patches were ass after the Fontaine story. Like, but the one things that were good, like, don't get me wrong, there was literally nothing coming out, but they also unironically gave us some of the best characters. Like, they gave us Arlecchino. I'm still a big advocate for Emily. I think Emily's a really good support. I think she's really, really good. I didn't get Clorinde because I've told the story a lot, but I'll say it again. I didn't want to buy Clorinde because I wasn't believing in the vision of Genshin at the time. So it's like, she's going to get a rerun. I might as well wait and not spend money on her until she comes back, and I'll see if the game is in a better position. Plus, I was kind of saving for Anime Expo, but still. That's neither here nor there, which is ironic because then I went to Anime Expo and then spent all my money on Genshin. Still, chat, I think... the underground, the water. I know a lot of people like the water. I didn't for combat. I liked it for exploration and everything else, like swimming underwater. I thought that was great, but when it comes to actual combat, because you do have to get a lot of like stuff, like materials for your characters, I thought that was fucking awful. I thought the combat was bad. Now, it worked. Don't get me wrong. Like, although it wasn't fun for me, it worked. Okay? I will give it that. It didn't bug out for me at any point. I buy the characters so I can use the characters. I don't buy the characters so I can use them underwater and see the fucking water diaper. At least let me look at their ass, chat. Come on. Like, come on, Hoyo. But, like, other than that, exploring the puzzles and stuff like that underwater was pretty good. I'm not going to lie. But I would have preferred... I don't know, more underwater temples. That would have been really cool. Like if the enemies you needed to get were underwater, like in underwater temples, and then you swim down there and then you fight and then you swim up again and you got to swim around. But then I feel like in that case, they would have to like shrink Fontaine a lot because the reason why it's so big is just so much shit that you can explore and fight. So, Hey, these are just my ramblings. Don't worry about me. You don't even have to agree with me. If you think Genshin Impact winning mobile game of the year is what do you call it? Is just rigged or whatever, you could just tell me, chat. Just tell me in the comment section down below. Tell me your opinions, chat. I want to hear your opinions. We're a community here. This is the real Genshin. This is the real gacha community right here, chat. Right here with me, you and me. We're really working it out. Now, is there anything else? I think Zenless Zone Zero has definitely shaped up. Now, this isn't to say that Zenless Zone Zero had a terrible release. It didn't. It actually had a really good release, and I thought it worked really well. I just think that it is definitely going in a better direction now, especially if you have played this Jane Doe story. I think that one worked a lot better. But, you know, congratulations to Genshin Impact for winning best mobile game of the year. I mean, it's kind of funny because they technically all had the same amount of content because Zenless Zone Zero was on release, so it had like 3 stories plus like some extra stories, and Genshin Impact only had 3 patches worth of stories. So it's kind of really good comparatively. It was really good comparatively, you know. Now, I guess I can compare the stories of like all the whole Honkai Star Rail, all those stories in a different game video. As for now, I will just say, do I think Genshin Impact deserved Game of the Year? Or Mobile Game of the Year. This is not like Game of the Year. This is Mobile Game of the Year. I'd say yes. But I do think that Honkai Star Rail definitely should have been nominated as well. That's just my opinion. I think Zenless Zone Zero definitely deserves its nomination. And then Honkai Star Rail should have been there. Like, they should have been neck and neck for 2nd and 3rd place. Great games. Wuwa, close 4th. Wuwa is definitely on the trail of whichever game didn't win 2nd. So, like, whichever one you think is 3rd place, I think Honkai Star Rail is definitely, like, on the tails of that. Did I say Honkai Star Rail? Wuthering Waves is on the tail of that. Anyways, chat, I'm all over the place. Tell me what you think in the comment section down below, and I will catch you gamers in the next one. Bye.